Captain Lisa Martin stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, staring at the massive structure floating in space before them. The ancient station was bigger than anything she had ever seen. It looked like a giant metal flower with twisted arms reaching out in all directions. Strange lights flickered along its surface even though it should have been dead for millions of years. "Alex, are you getting anything from the scans?" Lisa asked her science officer. Dr. Alex Turner looked up from his console, his face showing excitement and worry at the same time. "Captain, this thing is old. Really old. The metal it's made from doesn't match anything in our databases, and there's still power running through it somehow." Lisa walked closer to the view screen. They had come to this empty part of space because their instruments detected strange gravity readings. What they found was much more than they expected. The station was floating alone, no planets or stars nearby, just sitting in the darkness, like it was waiting for someone to find it. "Any signs of life?" Lisa asked. "No life signs, but the energy readings are off the charts," Alex replied. "Captain, I think this station is older than any civilization we know about. It might be from before humans even existed." Lisa felt a chill run down her back. First contact with aliens had happened over 200 years ago. Humans had joined the Galactic Council and learned about 12 different alien races. But this station looked nothing like the technology any of those races used. "Can we dock with it?" she asked her pilot. Lieutenant Ben Hayes checked his controls. "There's a docking port on the lower section. It's strange, though. It looks like it was built for ships our size." That worried Lisa even more. How could something millions of years old have docking ports that fit human ships? "Take us in slowly, Ben, and keep our weapons ready just in case." The horizon moved carefully toward the ancient station. As they got closer, Lisa could see more details. The metal wasn't just old, it seemed to shift and change color as they watched. Some parts looked solid, while others seemed almost transparent. "Docking complete, Captain," Ben announced. Lisa turned to her security chief. "Ryan, take a team and secure the docking area. Alex, you're with me. We're going aboard." The airlock opened with a soft hiss. The air inside the station was breathable, which was another mystery. Lisa and Alex walked through corridors that seemed to glow with their own light. The walls were covered in symbols that looked almost familiar, but not quite like anything from Earth or the known alien races. "These writings," Alex said, running his scanner over the wall. "They're similar to some ancient Earth languages, but also like Vorthan military codes. How is that possible?" The Vorthans were the strongest military race in the Galactic Council. They controlled the biggest fleets and had the most advanced weapons. Most other races, including humans, tried not to make them angry. They walked deeper into the station. Everything was too quiet. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls. Finally, they reached what looked like a control room. In the center was a large console covered in the same strange symbols. "Alex, can you make sense of any of this?" Lisa asked. Alex approached the console carefully. "Some of these symbols match things in our translation databases. I think this might be some kind of navigation system, and this section here might be communications." He reached out to touch one of the glowing symbols. "Captain, I think if I can activate this, we might learn where this station came from." Lisa hesitated. They were supposed to report any new discoveries to Earth Command and the Galactic Council, but this was too important to wait. "Do it, but be careful." Alex pressed his hand against the symbol. The moment he touched it, the entire station came alive. Lights flashed everywhere. The floor started vibrating. And then a massive wave of energy shot out from the station in all directions. "What did you do?" Lisa shouted over the noise. "I don't know. It just activated everything." Alex yelled back. The energy wave was invisible, but their ship's sensors detected it racing away from them faster than light speed. It was heading toward every inhabited system in the galaxy. Back on Earth, Admiral Kate Rodriguez was having a normal day at Earth Command when every alarm in the building started going off at once. She ran to the main control room where her officers were staring at their screens in shock. "What's happening?" she demanded. "Admiral, we're getting automated signals from installations that aren't supposed to exist," her communications officer reported. The computers are showing locations of bases and facilities that we have no record of. Kate felt her blood turn cold. She had heard rumors, whispers about secret projects from the early days of human space exploration. But she had always thought they were just stories. "Show me," she ordered. The main screen filled with a map of human space. Red dots appeared all over it, marking locations of hidden installations. There were dozens of them, scattered throughout human territory. Some were in empty space, others hidden behind planets or in asteroid fields. "Admiral, we're also getting a priority message from the Galactic Council," another officer announced. "They want to speak with Earth's representatives immediately." Across the galaxy, the Vorthan Empire detected the energy pulse too. Emperor Zethkar stood in his war room, surrounded by his military commanders. The massive alien looked like a cross between a lizard and a bird, with sharp claws and glowing red eyes. "My Emperor," his science advisor reported, "the energy signature came from human space. It appears they have been hiding technology from the Council." Zethkar's eyes glowed brighter with anger. "Humans," he hissed. "We thought they were weak and harmless. If they have been lying to us, they will pay the price." Meanwhile, Ambassador Daniel Wright sat in his office on the Council station, trying to answer questions he didn't understand. Representatives from all 12 alien races were demanding explanations about the energy pulse and the hidden human installations. Ambassador Wright, the Council chairman, said, "Our sensors detected massive energy signatures from human space. We also found evidence of military installations that were never reported to this Council. Explain this immediately." Daniel's mouth felt dry. "Honored Chairman, I assure you that Earth Command has not authorized any secret military projects. This must be some kind of mistake." But even as he said it, Daniel knew it wasn't true. The evidence was too clear. Humanity had been hiding something big from the galaxy for a long time. And now, thanks to Lisa and Alex's discovery of the ancient station, their secret was out. The question was, what would happen next? Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison had been waiting for this day for 30 years. He stood in his secret office deep beneath the surface of Mars, watching the emergency signals flood in from across human space. The Shadowgate network was finally active. Jake was one of only 12 people in the entire human government who knew the truth. For 3 centuries, humanity had been living a lie. While they appeared to be peaceful members of the Galactic Council, they had been secretly building the most powerful military force in the galaxy. His secure communicator buzzed. "Admiral Morrison, this is President Santos. I need you in my office immediately." Jake had been dreading this call. President Maria Santos didn't know about the Shadow Gates. Neither did most of Earth's government. The secret had been kept by a small group of people who passed the knowledge down through generations. He took a transport ship to Earth and walked into the president's office. Maria looked stressed and confused. Admiral Rodriguez was there too, along with several other military leaders. "Jake," Maria said, "Kate tells me that you might know something about these hidden installations. Please tell me what's going on." Jake looked around the room. These were good people who had dedicated their lives to serving humanity. They deserved to know the truth, even if it would shock them. "Madam President," Jake began, "what I'm about to tell you will be hard to believe. 300 years ago, when humans first made contact with alien civilizations, our leaders realized something important. We were not the strongest race in the galaxy. If we wanted to survive, we needed an advantage that no one else knew about." He activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. The Shadowgate project was started by Dr. Elena Vasquez and General Sam Collins. They believed that humanity's best chance for survival was to build a secret military network that could be activated when we needed it most. Maria stared at the hologram. "Secret military network? Jake, that's impossible. We would know about something like that." "No, Madam President, you wouldn't. The Shadow Gates use technology we discovered in ancient ruins on Kepler 442b. These gates create openings to pocket dimensions where we built an entire fleet of warships." Admiral Rodriguez leaned forward. "How many ships are we talking about?" Jake, change the hologram to show ship counts. "Over 400 combat vessels, Destroyers, cruisers, battleships, and support craft. All built using technology that's 50 years ahead of what the Galactic Council thinks we have. The room fell silent. Maria looked like someone had hit her in the stomach. 400 ships? How did we pay for this? How did we build them without anyone knowing? The project has been funded through hidden budget allocations for 3 centuries, Jake explained. We built the ships in automated facilities located in the pocket dimensions. The workers who built them have lived their entire lives in these hidden spaces dedicated to preparing for humanity's hour of greatest need. Jake activated another part of the display. Each ship is equipped with quantum stealth technology, AI-assisted combat systems, and weapons designed specifically to counter the military doctrines of every known alien race. The flagship is called the UES Phantom. It's more powerful than anything the Vorthans have. Admiral Rodriguez stood up and walked closer to the hologram. Jake, this is incredible, but it's also terrifying. We've been lying to our allies for 300 years. What happens when they find out? That depends on what we do next, Jake replied. The energy pulse from the ancient station has activated all our hidden systems. The Galactic Council knows we've been hiding something. We have 2 choices. Reveal our true capabilities or try to keep the secret and hope they don't discover the full truth. Maria rubbed her temples. What about the Vorthans? How will they react? Jake's expression became grim. Emperor Zethkar will see this as a direct threat to his empire's dominance. The Vorthans have controlled the galaxy through military superiority for centuries. If they discover that humanity has been secretly building a fleet that could challenge them, they'll attack us immediately. A new alarm sounded in the room. Admiral Rodriguez checked her communicator. Madam President, we're getting reports from our ambassadors. The Vorthon Empire is demanding immediate access to inspect all human military installations. They're giving us 48 hours to comply or face military action. Jake nodded. This is exactly what we expected would happen. The question is, do we let them inspect our fake installations and hope they don't find the real ones? Or do we show them what humanity is really capable of? Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Brooks was leading the first official expedition through a shadow gate in over 50 years. His small ship, the UES Scout, passed through what looked like a tear in space itself. On the other side, he found something that took his breath away. The hidden fleet was even more impressive than the reports had described. Massive warships floated in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor plating. Space stations provided manufacturing and support facilities, and everywhere, crews of men and women who had spent their lives preparing for this moment. The UES Phantom dominated the center of the fleet. The battleship was 3 times larger than any Vorthan vessel and covered in weapon systems that looked nothing like standard human technology. Its hull seemed to shift and blend with the surrounding space. Commander Brooks, a voice said over the radio. This is Colonel Pete Williams, commanding officer of the Ghost Fleet. Welcome to Sanctuary Base. Ryan guided his ship toward the massive space station at the center of the formation. When he docked, he was met by Colonel Williams, a tall man with gray hair and sharp eyes. Colonel, I have to admit this is not what I expected when I was briefed about the Shadow Gates, Ryan said. Pete smiled. Most people don't expect it. We've been working in secret for so long that sometimes I forget the rest of humanity doesn't know we exist. They walked through the station's corridors. Everywhere Ryan looked, he saw advanced technology and dedicated personnel. These weren't just soldiers, they were scientists, engineers, and strategists who had devoted their lives to protecting humanity. How many people know about this place? Ryan asked. About 15,000 across all the hidden installations, Pete replied. We've been recruiting carefully for generations. Everyone here volunteered to give up their normal lives to serve humanity's greater good. They reached the command center where dozens of officers were monitoring communications from across the galaxy. On the main screen, Ryan could see updates about the Vorthan fleet movements and the growing tension at the Galactic Council. Commander, Pete said, I need you to take a message back to Earth Command. The Ghost Fleet is ready for deployment. We've been training for this day our entire lives. If the Vorthons want a war, we can give them one they'll never forget. Back on Earth, President Santos made the hardest decision of her life. She looked around the room at her advisors and military leaders. Jake, I want you to contact this Shadow Council you mentioned. If we're going to reveal humanity's true military capabilities, I want to make sure we do it right. Jake activated his secure communicator. Within minutes, holographic images of 11 other people appeared around the table. They were the secret guardians of humanity's hidden strength. Ladies and gentlemen, Maria said to the assembled group, it appears the time for secrecy is over. What do you recommend? Dr. Lucy Chang, the current head of the Shadowgate Research Division, spoke first. Madam President, we always knew this day would come. The question isn't whether to reveal our capabilities, but how to do it in a way that protects humanity's interests. The Vorthons are mobilizing their first battle group, added Admiral Susan Parker, who commanded the fleet's intelligence division. That's over 200 ships. They're planning to intimidate us into submission. Maria looked at the faces around her, both physical and holographic. Then I guess it's time for the galaxy to learn what humanity is really capable of. Jake, prepare the Ghost Fleet for deployment. It's time to open the Shadow Gates. President Maria Santos stood before the emergency session of Earth's Security Council. The room was filled with tension as she prepared to reveal humanity's greatest secret to the people who would have to live with the consequences. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, what I'm about to tell you will change everything you think you know about our place in the galaxy. For the next hour, Maria explained the Shadowgate project, the hidden fleet, and the 3-century deception that had kept humanity safe. Some council members looked shocked, others angry, and a few seemed relieved that humanity had been preparing for this day. Madam President, Senator Bob Martinez said, you're telling us that we've been lying to our allies for 300 years. How can we justify that? Admiral Morrison stepped forward. Senator, we weren't lying to hurt anyone. We were preparing to protect not just humanity, but all the smaller races that live under Vorthon intimidation. Sometimes survival requires difficult choices. The debate continued for hours. Outside, the Vorthon First Battle Group was moving toward human space. Emperor Zethkar had made it clear that he would accept nothing less than complete submission from humanity. Finally, Maria made the decision. We'll agree to a limited inspection of our conventional forces while we prepare for what might come next. Admiral Morrison, I want the Ghost Fleet ready for immediate deployment. Captain Lucy Chang received her orders while commanding the destroyer UES Defender near the edge of human space. Her job was to make the Vorthons think they were seeing humanity's real military capabilities while hiding the truth. All ships. This is Chang, she transmitted to the small fleet of conventional human vessels. Remember, we're just regular patrol ships doing routine exercises. Let them think we're all humanity has. The Vorthon inspection force arrived with overwhelming power. 12 massive battleships and dozens of smaller vessels, all bristling with weapons. The lead ship was the VES Dominator, commanded by General Corex, one of the Vorthon Empire's most experienced commanders. Human vessels, Corex's voice came over the communication system. Prepare to be boarded for inspection. Any resistance will be considered an act of war. Lucy gritted her teeth but followed orders. Understood, General Corex. We're transmitting our ship specifications now. The inspection went as planned. The Vorthons found exactly what they expected. Human ships with decent but unremarkable technology, crews that seemed nervous and outmatched, and no sign of the advanced capabilities that could threaten the Empire. But 3 days into the inspection, everything went wrong. The civilian transport ship. Morningstar was carrying supplies to a mining colony when it encountered a Vorthon patrol. The patrol commander, Lieutenant Vextar, was young and eager to prove himself to his superiors. Human vessel, you are traveling in a restricted area, Vextar announced. Prepare to be searched. Captain Jim Foster of the Morningstar tried to explain that he was following the approved shipping route, but Vextar wasn't interested in listening. The Vorthon lieutenant was convinced that the transport was carrying hidden military equipment. I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match your manifest, Vextar lied. You are clearly conducting military operations disguised as civilian transport. That's not true, Jim protested. We're carrying mining equipment and food supplies. You can inspect our cargo. But Vextar had already made up his mind. Human vessel, you are a threat to Vorthon's security. Prepare to be destroyed. The morning day, Star had no weapons and no chance of escape. Jim managed to send one last message before the Vorthon patrol ship opened fire. This is the Morning Star. We are unarmed civilians. Please don't. The explosion could be seen from 3 star systems. Away. The news reached Earth Command within minutes. President Santos sat in stunned silence as she read the report. 43 innocent people, including women and children, had been murdered by the Vorthons for no reason other than paranoia and cruelty. Madam President, Admiral Morrison said quietly, the pretense is over. We can't let this stand. Maria nodded slowly. Jake, release the Ghost Fleet. It's time for the galaxy to see what humanity is really capable of. The UES Spectre received the activation order while hiding behind an asteroid near the destroyed transport. Commander Tony Blake had been waiting in the advanced destroyer, invisible to all sensors, watching the Vorthon patrol celebrate their victory. All hands battle stations, Tony announced to his crew. We're going active. The Spectre decloaked directly behind the Vorthon patrol. The 3 enemy ships never saw it coming. Tony's crew had trained for this exact scenario hundreds of times. The quantum disruption cannons fired once, and the Vorthon patrol simply ceased to exist. The engagement lasted 30 seconds. When it was over, there was no trace of the Vorthon ships except for glowing particles drifting in space. The news of the Spectre's attack spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every major government, every news organization, every military commander heard the same impossible story. Humanity had weapons that could destroy Vorthon ships without taking any damage. Emperor Zethkar received the report in his throne room on the Vorthon homeworld. The massive alien ruler listened to the details with growing rage. 1 human ship destroyed 3 of our patrol vessels? He roared. How is that possible? His military advisors had no answers. The attack had been recorded by long-range sensors, but the weapon signatures didn't match any known technology. My Emperor, General Corex reported from the inspection fleet, our analysis of human military capabilities was clearly incomplete. They have been hiding their true strength from us. Zethkar's red eyes glowed with fury. Then we will show them the price of deception. Order the 2nd and 3rd battle groups to join the 1st. I want 500 ships ready to eliminate the human threat once and for all. Meanwhile, Admiral Kate Rodriguez stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Council. Representatives from all 12 member races watched as she prepared to reveal the truth about humanity's hidden capabilities. Honored delegates, she began. For too long, this council has allowed one race to dominate all others through fear and intimidation. Today, that changes. She activated a holographic display that showed the Shadowgate network. Gasps echoed through the chamber as the delegates saw the scope of humanity's secret preparations. We never sought to conquer or dominate, Kate continued. We sought only to ensure that when tyranny threatened the freedom of any race, there would be someone strong enough to stand against it. The delegate from the peaceful Zeridian collective stood up. Admiral Rodriguez, why did you not trust the council with this information? Kate looked directly at the Zeridian ambassador. Because we knew that if the Vorthons learned of our preparations, they would attack immediately. We needed time to build a force capable of protecting not just humanity, but all the races that have suffered under Vorthon oppression. Ambassador Daniel Wright, who had been kept in the dark about the Shadowgates, finally understood why he had been unable to answer the council's questions. He stood and addressed his fellow ambassadors. My friends, I have served on this council for 15 years. In that time, I have watched smaller races live in fear of Vorthon retaliation. I have seen peaceful worlds threatened with destruction for refusing to surrender their resources. Humanity's preparations were not aimed at conquest, but at liberation. The Corvin Federation delegate nodded in agreement. The Vorthons have demanded tribute from our industrial worlds for decades. We have been afraid to refuse. One by one, Other delegates began sharing their own stories of Vorthon intimidation and abuse. The council chamber filled with accounts of threats, demands, and barely contained violence that had kept the galaxy under the Empire's control. Emperor Zethkar's representative, General Thaxmore, stood angrily. "These accusations are lies. The Vorthon Empire brings order and stability to the galaxy." But his protests fell on deaf ears. The other delegates had finally found the courage to speak truth about the Vorthon Empire's methods. As the session continued, Admiral Rodriguez received a message from Fleet Command. The Ghost Fleet was moving through the Shadow Gates, taking positions throughout human space. The largest military force in galactic history was preparing for war. "Delegates," she announced, "the Vorthon Empire has 500 ships moving toward human space. They intend to destroy our worlds and enslave our people, but they will discover that humanity is not as defenseless as they believed." She looked directly at General Thaxmore. "Tell your emperor that if he wants a war, we will give him one, but this time he will face an enemy that fights back." Emperor Zethkar stood before the assembled war council of the Vorthon Empire. The massive throne room was filled with his most experienced generals and admirals, all waiting for their orders to destroy humanity once and for all. "My loyal servants," the emperor announced, his voice echoing off the metal walls. "The humans have revealed themselves as a threat to our rightful dominance of this galaxy. For 3 centuries they have lived among us as lies and deception. Now they will pay the ultimate price for their betrayal." General Korek stepped forward. "My emperor, our combined fleets total 800 ships. The humans have at most 50 vessels, even counting their hidden forces. This will be a swift victory." But Admiral Vorthak, the Empire's oldest military commander, looked troubled. "My emperor, the weapon that destroyed our patrol ships was unlike anything we've encountered. We should approach this war with caution." Zethkar's red eyes flared with anger. "Caution! They destroyed 3 of our ships. This insult cannot go unpunished. Order all fleets to advance on human space immediately. I want their homeworld burning within a week." Across the galaxy, other races watched the coming war with a mixture of fear and hope. For centuries, they had lived under Vorthon intimidation. Too weak individually to resist the Empire's demands, the Zeridian Collective held an emergency council meeting. Ambassador Kyalani addressed her fellow delegates with urgency in her voice. "My friends, the humans have given us something we thought was lost forever. Hope. If they can stand against the Vorthon Empire, perhaps we too can find our freedom." The Industrial Corvan Federation made a decision that surprised everyone. Chancellor Brixton announced that his people would provide manufacturing support to humanity's war effort. "For too long we have built ships and weapons for the Vorthons while they threatened our worlds," he declared. "It is time to build for those who fight for freedom instead of conquest." Even the normally neutral Altarian Republic began secretly, sharing intelligence about Vorthon fleet movements with human forces. Ambassador Wright worked tirelessly to build a coalition of races willing to support humanity's fight against tyranny. Meanwhile, Commander Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of the UES Phantom as the massive battleship led the Ghost Fleet through the Shadow Gates. This was the moment they had all trained for their entire lives. "All ships, this is Brooks," he transmitted to the fleet. "Today we fight not just for humanity but for every race that has suffered under Vorthon oppression. Show them what happens when free people stand together." The Ghost Fleet emerged from the Shadow Gates throughout human space. 400 ships appeared from dimensional rifts, their advanced stealth systems making them invisible to enemy sensors until they chose to reveal themselves. Captain Lisa Martin now commanded the advanced destroyer UES Wraith. She had been promoted after her discovery of the ancient station that started this entire chain of events. Her ship was part of the advance guard, positioned to intercept the first Vorthon attack. "Captain," her science officer Alex Turner reported, "long-range sensors are detecting the Vorthon First Battle Group, 200 ships, approaching from the Kepler sector." Lisa studied the tactical display. The Vorthons were advancing in their traditional formation, a massive wall of ships designed to overwhelm enemies through sheer firepower. It was a strategy that had worked for centuries against every race they had faced. "Alex, transmit our engagement plan to the fleet," Lisa ordered. Let's show them why their old tactics won't work against us. The Battle of Proxima Station became the first major engagement between the Ghost Fleet and Vorthon forces. The space station served as a supply depot for human colonies and was considered an easy target by the advancing Vorthon fleet. General Corex led the attack personally, confident that his overwhelming numbers would crush any human resistance. His flagship, the VES Thunder, was accompanied by 50 other battleships and cruisers. Human defenders, Corex announced over the communication channels, surrender immediately and your deaths will be swift. Resist, and we will make your suffering legendary. But instead of the desperate defense he expected, Corex found himself facing something entirely different. Human ships appeared and disappeared at will, striking his formation from impossible angles before vanishing again. The UES Wraith materialized directly above the Thunder, its quantum cannons charging with deadly energy. Lisa's crew had practiced this maneuver thousands of times in simulation. Fire, she commanded. The quantum disruption beam cut through the Vorthon flagship's shields like they weren't there. The massive ship's hull began to break apart at the molecular level. Corex had just enough time to realize he was facing technology beyond his understanding before his ship disappeared in a flash of light. All around the battle zone, similar scenes played out. Human ships used their dimensional phase technology to appear inside enemy formations, delivering devastating attacks before disappearing again. The Vorthans, trained for traditional space combat, found themselves unable to adapt to humanity's revolutionary tactics. Captain Chang led her squadron in a coordinated strike against the Vorthon supply ships. Her destroyers appeared in perfect formation, launched their weapons, and vanished before the enemy could return fire. "This is impossible," one Vorthon captain transmitted in desperation. "How can ships appear from nowhere?" The answer came from Commander Brooks aboard the Phantom. "Because we fight for freedom, and freedom finds a way." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Vorthon First Battle Group had been reduced to scattered survivors fleeing back toward their own space. Not a single human ship had been lost. But the victory came at a psychological cost for the Vorthons that was even greater than their military losses. For the first time in their history, they had faced an enemy that was clearly superior to them in both technology and tactics. Reports of the battle spread throughout the Vorthon Empire. Soldiers who had never known fear began to question whether their empire was as invincible as they had always believed. Some units even began to surrender when they encountered human forces, rather than face the terrifying new weapons. Emperor Zethkar received the battle reports in stunned silence. His advisors stood around him, afraid to speak. Finally, Admiral Vorthak found the courage to address his ruler. "My Emperor, we must reconsider our strategy. The humans have technology and tactics we don't understand. Perhaps we should negotiate." "Never," Zethkar roared, his massive form rising from the throne. "No inferior race will humiliate the Vorthon Empire. Order the second and third battle groups to advance. Commit every ship we have if necessary. But I want the human homeworld destroyed." The war was escalating beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Vorthons were mobilizing their entire military might, while humanity's Ghost Fleet prepared to face the largest armada in galactic history. On Earth, President Santos addressed the world in a broadcast that was transmitted throughout human space. "My fellow humans," she said, "we stand at a crossroads in galactic history. The Vorthon Empire seeks to destroy us for the crime of refusing to live in fear. But we will not bow down to tyranny. We will fight for our freedom and for the freedom of every race that dreams of living without fear." Admiral Morrison coordinated the defense from his secret command center on Mars. The holographic displays showed Vorthon fleets converging on human space from multiple directions. It would be the largest military engagement in galactic history. "All Ghost Fleet commanders," he transmitted. "This is Morrison. The enemy is coming with everything they have. Show them why humanity has survived every challenge the universe has thrown at us. Show them why we never give up and we never surrender." Captain Martin received the message aboard the Wraith as she prepared for the next battle. Around her, the crew worked with calm efficiency. They had trained their entire lives for this moment. "Helm, set course for the Beta Centauri system," she ordered. That's where they'll make their main push toward Earth, and that's where we'll stop them. As the Ghost Fleet moved to intercept the advancing Vorthon armada, messages of support began arriving from across the galaxy. The peaceful races that had lived in fear for so long were finally finding their courage. The war for the galaxy's freedom had begun. Emperor Zethkar stood in the command center of his personal flagship, the VES Annihilator, watching as the largest fleet in Vorthon history moved toward Earth. Over 1,000 ships stretched across space in a formation so massive it blocked out the stars. "My Emperor," Admiral Vorthek reported, "all battle groups are in position. We should reach the human homeworld in 18 hours. Zethkar's red eyes gleamed with anticipated victory. "Excellent. Today the galaxy will witness what happens to those who defy the Vorthon Empire. We will burn their homeworld to ash and scatter their people across the void." But the Emperor's confidence was about to face its greatest test. Admiral Jake Morrison had anticipated this exact strategy. He knew that Zethkar would eventually target Earth directly, believing that humanity would reveal all their hidden forces to defend their homeworld. Morrison was right about the strategy, but wrong about the outcome. As the Vorthon armada approached the Sol system, they found something that defied all their expectations. The space around Earth was filled with human ships, not just the Ghost Fleet but vessels from allied races who had finally found the courage to stand against Vorthon tyranny. The Zeridian Collective had contributed their advanced censorships. The Corvin Federation provided heavy manufacturing vessels converted into mobile weapons platforms. Even the peaceful Altarian Republic had sent their small but highly maneuverable fighters. "This is impossible," Zethkar growled as he studied the tactical display. "How did they assemble such a force without our intelligence networks detecting it?" The answer came from Captain Lisa Martin aboard the UES Wraith. She had been promoted to Admiral and now commanded the 3rd Fleet Division. "Emperor Zethkar," her voice came over the communication system, "you're facing something your empire has never encountered before. Free peoples fighting together for their survival. We are not the scattered, frightened races you're used to. Bullying. We are united." Zethkar's response was filled with rage. "Admiral Martin, you are about to witness the full power of the Vorthon Empire. Your pathetic alliance will crumble before our might." But as the battle began, it became clear that the Vorthons had seriously underestimated their enemies. The Ghost Fleet had been positioned throughout the Sol system using Shadowgate technology. As soon as the Vorthons committed to their attack, human ships began appearing everywhere. Commander Ryan Brooks led the Phantom and her escort fleet in the opening attack. They materialized directly in the center of the Vorthon formation, their quantum weapons charging. "All ships, this is Brooks," he transmitted to the combined fleet. "For Earth, for freedom, for every race that has suffered under Vorthon oppression." The Battle of Sol became the largest space engagement in galactic history. Over 1,500 ships fought in a sphere of space stretching from Mercury to Mars. The very fabric of spacetime rippled from the massive energy discharges. The Vorthons fought with desperate fury, knowing that defeat here would mean the end of their empires. Dominance. But they were facing enemies who had spent centuries preparing for this moment. Admiral Morrison coordinated the defense from his command ship, the UES Liberty. The holographic displays showed the battle unfolding in 3 dimensions, with human and allied forces using their superior technology and tactics to systematically destroy the Vorthon fleet. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender requests from multiple Vorthon units. They're asking for terms." Morrison's expression remained grim. "Tell them that any ship that powers down its weapons and ejects its combat systems will be spared, but the Annihilator and Zethkar's personal guard must be stopped at all costs." The Emperor's flagship was fighting its way toward Earth, its massive guns destroying everything in its path. Zethkar was determined that if his empire was going to fall, he would at least take humanity's homeworld with him. "My Emperor," Admiral Vorthak said urgently, "our fleet is being destroyed. We should consider retreat." "Never," Zethkar roared. "I will not be remembered as the Emperor who surrendered to inferior beings." But Captain Chang had other plans. The UES Spectre and her sister ships had been waiting for this moment. Using their advanced stealth technology, they had positioned themselves directly in the path of the Annihilator. "All units, this is Chang," she transmitted to her squadron. "Target their main weapons and propulsion systems. We're going to end this war right here." The final phase of the battle lasted only minutes. The Spectre and her escorts appeared around, the Annihilator like ghosts materializing from the void. Their coordinated attack crippled the massive ship's weapons and engines. Zeth Carr found himself trapped aboard a powerless vessel, surrounded by the very enemies he had sought to destroy. For the first time in his life, the Emperor of the Vorthan Empire felt fear. "Emperor Zethkar," Admiral Rodriguez's voice came over the communication system. "This is your final chance. Surrender now, and your surviving ships will be allowed to return home. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every last vessel in your fleet." The Emperor looked around his damaged command center. Most of his staff was dead or injured. His mighty fleet was scattered and broken. His empire's reputation for invincibility lay in ruins. He began, then stopped. For a moment his arrogance cracked, and the reality of his situation became clear. "I surrender." Those two words ended 3 centuries of Vorthon dominance over the galaxy. The aftermath of the Battle of Sol changed everything. The Vorthan Empire, defeated and humiliated, agreed to massive reforms. Emperor Zethkar was removed from power and replaced by a council that included representatives from the races his empire had oppressed. The Galactic Council underwent complete restructuring. Admiral Rodriguez became the first Supreme Commander of the new Galactic Defense Force, an organization designed to protect smaller races from future threats. The Shadowgate network was partially revealed to trusted allies while maintaining humanity's strategic advantages. The Ghost Fleet transitioned from a secret weapon to humanity's contribution to galactic security. Dr. Alex Turner, whose accidental discovery of the ancient station had started the entire chain of events, was appointed head of the new Archaeological Research Division. His mission was to study the mysterious ancient civilization that had created the technology humanity had adapted for the Shadow Gates. President Santos addressed the galaxy in a broadcast that was heard on every inhabited world. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," she declared. "An era where no single race can dominate others through fear and violence. We have shown that when free peoples stand together, no tyranny can prevail." But perhaps the most important change was in the hearts and minds of the galaxy's inhabitants. The smaller races that had lived in fear for centuries now knew that they could stand up to bullies and oppressors. The age of cowering before tyrants was over. Captain Martin, now Admiral Martin, stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the UES Explorer. Her mission was to investigate the ancient ruins that had been discovered throughout the galaxy. Ruins that might hold the key to understanding the mysterious civilization that had left humanity the tools for their victory. "Admiral," her science officer reported, "we're approaching the coordinates for the next archaeological site. Initial scans show structures similar to the station where this all began." Lisa smiled as she looked out at the stars. The war was over, but humanity's greatest adventures were just beginning. They had revealed themselves not as conquerors, but as protectors of freedom and guardians of the peace. The galaxy was finally free, and it was up to all its peoples to build something better than what came before. As the Explorer jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward new discoveries and new challenges, one thing was certain: the age of Vorthon oppression was over, and the age of cooperation and mutual respect had begun. The Shadow Gates remained open, not as portals for secret weapons, but as symbols of humanity's commitment to defending freedom wherever it was threatened. And somewhere among the stars, the ancient civilization that had made it all possible watched with approval as their gifts were used not for conquest, but for liberation. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When good people stand together against tyranny, freedom will always find a way to win.